Hello and welcome to Talk of the Traitors for the very last time.
Oh, it's bittersweet, Hannah. It's bittersweet. What a great final, but the final Talk of the Traitors. Not the last podcast.
Oh my goodness.
We have a podcast. I'm really paranoid people are going to think the podcast is ending. It's not. But it's the end of our mini-series, Talk of the Traitors, where we talk about the latest UK series of the Traitors. And here we are talking about episode 12?
3, 6, 9, 12.
12. What a finale.
What a finale.
I'll say it. We were right.
We were correct.
But at what cost?
But literally at what cost? I genuinely, I say this every time, but where do we begin with that one?
Where do we begin? I guess we should really do this chronologically because there is so much to talk about. It started with the two gals, the two main characters.
The two gal pals.
The two gal pals. Leanne, who we called it, has been set up as basically the main character of the series.
We did, yeah.
2-3 episodes ago, we were like, wow, Leanne's getting a lot of screen time. Now we know why. By the way, there will be mild spoilers in this podcast. But it started with the two gal pals walking into breakfast together.
Genius from the producers to make sure that they went into breakfast together. We were on the edge of our seats, like, is one going to go in before the other? How are they going to do this? To send them in both together was genius.
I genuinely was like, if I was in that position and I was Charlotte, what would you do? Do you just start like attacking and lying? Yeah, the answer is yeah. I was like genuinely stunned by how much she just came out swinging.
I'm going to say hats off to Charlotte from The Traitors. I have seen a lot of mixed reviews online, but that is a tough role to play.
Yeah.
And if she gives up, one, it's not interesting TV, and two, it's not what she came there to do, okay? She didn't maybe want to be a traitor, but she was recruited as a traitor. She had a role to play. It was the best television scenario for us as viewers to watch someone really go for the game. And you could tell she was finding it hard. I think she was almost hiding it with the laughter, the uncomfortableness. We saw the talk between her and Frankie, and I was like, it's so strange because if it was me, I would be, I'm so sorry. She played it very straight.
Yes.
But what else can you do?
Yeah, there was that conversation between Frankie and Charlotte in the kitchen, which was amazing drama, where Frankie was literally like, why are you doing this? And Charlotte was like giggling like the Joker. But like you say, I think it's like your option is laugh or cry. And I think Charlotte was just telling herself like, look, it's a show. It's a game. I have to play a role. You know, because as much as the rest of the faithfuls may get caught up in the emotion of it all, if Charlotte just gives up and says, I'm a traitor, well, the game's over and it's ruined. And, you know, you have to play along.
Yeah.
And she played brilliantly.
She played brilliantly. Hats off to her.
I will say, though, despite the best efforts of Frankie, and I think Frankie was amazing, I'm sure we'll say that many times in this episode, it does irk me a little bit that one of the biggest things that tipped the scales was Freddie doing a parting gift. Once again, a traitor dobbing another traitor in when they leave has rumbled the traitor. Drink every time I say traitor. It's like, again, you're allowed to do that, but it's like, it's a shame how much it tips the scales. I don't know how I feel about it.
Of course, because it makes for a less interesting final. I really enjoyed the final. I really enjoyed it.
Me too.
I will say that. It's more fun to watch someone trying to steal the money.
Yes.
That is just faithfuls battling it out against each other. It was a good watch. You know, we desperately wanted Alexander to win. We also really wanted Frankie to come home with the money.
We did.
But it is more fun to watch it knowing someone in there is lying. And with what Freddie did, that became basically impossible.
Yeah. I mean, look, I will say we probably should have opened with this. Congrats to Leanne and Jake.
Yes.
Well done for winning. But I agree with you. Like, yes, there is a lot of dramatic irony to watching the faithfuls like turn on each other at the end. But like, it's so much more interesting when you know there's a traitor there, especially because also, you know, they're just eliminating people to thin the herd to get more money.
Yes.
Anyway. So all that stuff at the end where they're like, I think there might still be a traitor. It's like, no, you just want to get it down to 2 so you can get your, what was it in the end? 40K each?
What did you think about the conversation between fake Welsh and Frankie?
Yes, I suppose that's actually the point where we started. I'll be honest, I kind of thought Charlotte would be a little bit more like, I'm really sorry, it's just the role I have to play. But she was playing it really maniacal. She was in character, which again, great TV. And Francesca genuinely seemed like terrified. Francesca seems like the sweetest person.
I would have crumbled under that pressure. It's again why I have to take my hat off to Charlotte.
Yeah.
Like, that is the toughest, most awkward and uncomfortable situation to go into, to then have to go into a breakfast where you know you're lying, and then you're lying in front of someone who knows that you're lying. It's all incredibly uncomfortable.
Especially because they were apparently best friends.
Yes.
Which, did we ever see that in the... look, we've been kind of attacking the edit a lot in this series, but like I do sympathize that there's like hours and hours and hours of footage. You can't show it all, but like I think I knew they were friends. I didn't know they were best friends.
I didn't know they were best buddies either.
No, but apparently they were. So, I mean, a great rivalry. It's worth noting we had a series, all female traitors, apart from Freddie, but he was
For
basically...
12 hours.
He was a sacrificial lamb.
Who told the worst lie in traitor history.
Yeah.
And got found out.
I don't count him necessarily. He didn't want to be a traitor. You know, all female traitors, basically, female seer, and then a female, like, showdown at the end. Very female... series of the traitors. They answered the critiques of it's like the olden times that Claudia laid down before. If you were at that breakfast, you're Frankie, you have just found out Charlotte's a traitor. Would you have done it like her? I feel like I would have been hammering it a lot more.
I think it was such an uncomfortable situation. I might have kind of done the same. She came in, she did immediately say she is a traitor.
In a way, I suppose there is power and trustworthiness in just how matter of fact and calm Frankie was about it. She was just like, well, she's a traitor. She's a traitor. She wasn't like, guys, you know?
Do you think in future series of The Traitors, we are going to see the seer power again? Because it was kind of like the poison chalice. And moving forward, I don't think anyone would be trying to fill coins in a little box to get that power.
I mean, Leanne literally said it to Frankie's face, which was a bit rude, where she was like, actually, I'm kind of glad I didn't get the power. And Frankie literally was like, wham, wham. Yeah, it's interesting because I think it is a great power unless you manage to pick a traitor, which they managed to do literally the first time. Maybe it would be more powerful to get it like midway through the series. I think giving that power right at the end makes you so vulnerable.
Yes.
Whereas I think if you gave someone the seer power episode, I don't know, 5, that could really turn the game. Because then you could get like real numbers of people arguing or bickering. But when it's down to the wire like this, I think, like you said, it basically sent Francesca home. I don't think, here's my big proclamation, I don't think Francesca would have been voted out if she hadn't got that seer power.
I agree. And I felt bad when Alexander was hugging her and he was like, I'm so sorry I gave you that power. Because essentially he sent her home a bit too.
Yeah.
Obviously he didn't know what was going to happen, but he sent her home.
Let's chat challenge.
The copter?
The copter. That looked fun as hell.
Would you have done it?
I think I would have done it. I kept saying to you, boring as I am, I was like, I'm amazed that like BBC Health and Safety let them do that.
I would have done it just to hold Alexander's hand. We both said that Alexander would be the person that we would want to be in a 2 with. He was so calm and reassuring, and he was also just having fun with it. I would have done anything to be 100 feet above the ground holding Alexander's hand.
Francesca gathering her boys, uneducated, to watch Alexander soar through the sky. I mean, if there's anyone I want to soar through the sky with, it's you. But, you know,
Obviously.
in a close second, it's Alexander. It looked really fun. It looked like you were flying, like
Really
Superman. Again, we saw a traitor's staple, which is truly arbitrary amounts of money being awarded.
Just thrown in a ring of fire at Johnny Cash.
Yeah, but then when Claudia was like, you've won 7,500. Why?
Why?
And then at the end, she was like, you've won 11 grand. Why? What does that mean? There was a point where Claudia was like, the prize pot now stands at a jaw-dropping £73,000. Now, obviously, huge amount of money. I'm not denying that. For TV, would we say jaw-dropping?
I think, and also split between 5 if you're getting about 15k each for all of this hard work.
Yeah.
And like you have been stressed and anxious out of your mind for such a long amount of time for possibly 15k. It's still a lot of money.
Yeah.
There's no denying.
In the real world, it's a lot of money. But on TV, when there's literally a show called Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, where they'll give you £1 million for doing Trivial Pursuit.
Yes. Is hang fire a phrase? Because Charlotte, fake Welsh, sorry, kept saying it in the challenge. And I was like, does she mean hold fire?
Yeah, I've never heard hang fire. Again,
Hang fire? Actually, would that not make sense? Hang?
I've heard hang
Does
10.
hang mean stop? Like hold?
Maybe hang fire is like an old-fashioned way of saying hold fire.
Hang fire.
She
hang
said
fire.
it a lot very confidently, so maybe Maybe in Wales they say that.
Hang fire.
She truly made it to the end. We should say she made it to the end without ever revealing she was Welsh.
Right.
Although Claudia did get that amazing closing line.
Oh, yes.
I can't wait for you to hear where Charlotte's actually from.
That was fantastic. What an
Iconic
end to the show.
But we're not at that yet. So they did the challenge. In kind of old school Traitors fashion, the challenge had no bearing on the show. But I think they liked that, right? It was kind of a break from the stress of it all. They kept saying that. They were like, it's just fun to do a challenge and not worry about who's a traitor. But then they did have to worry about who's a traitor because it was table time.
It was table time. Whilst the Sea of Power was controversial, it did give us the most amazing conversation between Charlotte and Francesca, and something we have literally never seen before in Traitors history. I will say one issue I have with Francesca's wording. I was told, or I have read, that they are not allowed to say, I swear. I think you're not allowed to say, I swear on my kid's life. You're not allowed to swear on lives. But her reasoning, I would say, was beyond the borders of what the lengths most traitors would go to prove their faithfulness. Because I couldn't have seen Amina saying, you know, I'm a wife, or I swear. I just couldn't see it. I felt like...
Well, Mina's a mother, and Mina never said, I swear as a mother.
As a mother. I think they maybe need to tighten up or try and control a little bit more what you say, because Frankie would have genuinely been like evil if the things she was saying
were a lie.
And so I don't know how I feel about that.
But they still voted her out.
Well, maybe I'm wrong.
No, I think you're right, but I think it's crazy to reflect on that Frankie was looking at them and saying, like, as a mother, I'm a faithful, and they still voted her out because they're basically implicitly saying, I think you are a traitor, a liar, and I guess a bad mother.
I don't know. What do you think? Because apparently it's supposed to be like, you can't say, I swear on X's life. Or you couldn't say to another player, like, do you swear on your mum's life? Do you swear on this person's life? Because that puts someone in such an uncomfortable position. Like, if you are lying.
That's so interesting. I've not heard that, but that makes so much sense because they never do that.
They're never allowed to do that. But I would say Frankie was teetering towards that border.
Yes.
Where she was basically saying it. I don't know how the rules go. I don't know if I'm not allowed to say to you, do you swear on your mum's life? Or I'm not allowed to say, I swear on my mum's life, or whatever. I don't know how it works. But we've never seen a contestant say, I swear on X's life. So I'm assuming no one is allowed to say it. But I would say that line was getting a bit blurry with Frankie.
Yeah, with all that as I'm a mother stuff. I mean, it is wild that didn't work.
Well, in our reaction video, we filmed our reaction, which is live on our TikTok channel. And we literally were like, I was like, you cannot go against someone who is saying this. Like, if someone has come to you, I was like, Frankie's defense is so good.
That round table between Charlotte and Frankie, that was tense. Like, Charlotte was getting a little bit nasty, but I think she was keeping it within the bounds of the game. You know, sometimes they get nasty, but it's in that bitter way where they're like, damn it, I'm losing. Like, Charlotte was playing the role of a nasty traitor. I will say, I don't know how the rest of them weren't a little bit like, Charlotte is laughing. Charlotte is cackling. Like, Frankie was distraught. Charlotte was like cracking up. I'm like, of those two, who's going to be the traitor?
Yeah, she was just finding it tough, wasn't she? You know, she said, I don't want you to get upset. I think Charlotte was great. I think she was great TV. I will stand up for her because I am seeing mixed reviews online. I'll stand up for her and say she played the game right until the end. Okay? Like, that was a very tough situation, a situation I myself would not have enjoyed being in. I would have struggled.
Yes.
And I think a lot of the British public, or the wider public, or whoever went on, would find that situation tough. To hold your own, to keep going when you're on a sinking ship.
Yes.
Where you're having to go against someone who knows you're lying and be a little bit mean.
Yeah, and your best
tough.
friend in the show, apparently.
She knew it was a game and she played it until the end. And for that, I take my hat off to her.
You've got to call it like you see it. Like, I think sometimes we, the viewers, you get caught up in the drama of it all. This person's nasty. Like, when we said in the series that we thought Joe was being a bit nasty, we meant in the sense that, like, he was just being a bit rude to people. Like, when he was kind of rude to Alexandra about, like, we're not playing the tired game. Like, that's just, game aside, that's just like a mean thing to say. I think Charlotte was keeping it in the bounds.
I actually don't think Charlotte was mean. I think that, like, her gameplay was tough.
Yes.
And at times very gameplay-y in a way that some people wouldn't like. But, like, she was never out to get someone for like personal reasons, for vindictive reasons. Like she did the shield thing as part of the game. It was all part of the game. And that takes a really strong person to do something like that. You could tell she was struggling with it. Okay. And I'm kind of still Team Charlotte. I think she did really well.
Me too. I've got no ill will towards Charlotte. I think she played an absolute blinder, to be honest. I think she did the best she could with that quite cursed hand she got at the end. It's interesting you bring up personal reasons, because Leanne and Alexander, to the end, that was... I think he, at the end, was just like, fine, this woman is going to keep coming for me. And I think he had started maybe, not resenting, but the animosity had gone back towards her. But she clearly had a problem with him to the end.
From day dot, just because she asked for feedback and he gave her feedback. Genuinely, that started from her at the round table being like, has anyone else got anything to say about me? And he said one thing and she was like, I hate that man.
Yeah, it was so clearly personal.
You can't ask. It's like at work when you're like, I'm getting colleague feedback, and then you get colleague feedback and you're like, I don't want that feedback.
Yeah, I don't actually want colleague feedback. I just want to be seen to be open. I will say, people say that The Traitors is such an interesting exploration of like social dynamics and like the psyche of the British public and all of this in different ways. And I think one way we saw in this series that was really interesting is the relationship between an in-group and an out-group, right? The in-group was the people who went straight to the castle. The out-group were the people who got off the train and then joined the show a little bit later. So Fozia
and Alexander.
They came in late, and from the beginning, all of them basically were like, we think those people are traitors, basically because they're not part of our little crew. And to the end, they were like, I think you might be a traitor, Alexander, basically because you weren't one of our day one mates.
Yeah, it was 3 days.
Yeah, and at this point, he had been with them for quite a long time. He'd made friends with them, but he could never shake that label of like, you weren't here from the beginning. You're not one of us.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting, even though did Alexander ever do anything suspicious, really?
No, he didn't. But again, when you've got nothing to go off, the chances that if you asked me and we're putting 2 people back in the game, I might have made one of them a traitor just to spice things. I think season 1 of The Traitors would have made one of Alexander or Fozia coming back into the game a traitor. And I think that the contestants on this series are going off what they've seen before. Because again, what else do they have to go off? And so I think season 1, we would have seen 1 out of 2 would have been to spice things up. And so I can kind of see the logic of where they were going with that. Was it correct? No.
Yes, because at this point in the game, the twist is to make none of them a traitor.
Yes.
That's the great twist, is that actually, they were all faithful. Again, it's a flaw of the fact that the faithfuls basically have nothing to ever go on. So you're always clutching at straws. Also, I guess he would have made a good traitor. Intelligent guy, much like that famous traitor Kaz, killing by night.
All right, let's ask the tough questions. We predicted exactly what would happen in this final.
Yeah.
Did you still enjoy it?
Absolutely. Yeah. I totally enjoyed it. I love the drama of it. I love the sheer amount of little unnecessary props they have at the end. I love that Claudia has a little velvet bag that they put their votes in. I love that everyone has a tiny chest with a tiny chalkboard. They have to write their things on a tiny chalkboard in a little chest, and it's all round a fire. Like, I love all the little minutiae. I love the drama of it all. It was a great final.
Yes.
I agree with what you said earlier, though, of like, as soon as the traitor was gone, the air's out of the balloon a little bit.
Yes, I beat by beat knew what was going to happen this episode, even down to the producers leaving in the conversation about Frankie being a mummy with Leanne, and us seeing very little chat between Leanne and Jake.
Yes.
Made me think she's going to partner with Jake and get Frankie out. I was like, they've massaged it too much in our face that it's looking like, how could she not go with Frankie? There were conversations that were left out of the edit to increase the drama. It worked. Like, it kind of even got me for a second. But I was like, they're going to choose to banish again. Alexander's gone. They're going to choose to banish again. Like, it was obvious.
Yeah, I mean, I was a little surprised that Frankie went. But again, like you say, it's about the omissions. Like, actually, now you point it out, like, we didn't see any conversations really between Leanne and Jake, and they clearly got together like we predicted and said we can't trust Frankie after the Sia thing, which is what they said.
Yeah.
They got her out.
She had formed an alliance that we didn't see with Jake. Her being in that one-to-one with Claudia saying, I'm going to go in there and go with my gut. I fear you just can't go into a final. You know what you think. And they must have had a conversation. He got her on side. He said, I'm a traitor. I'm the traitor hunter of the series, which...
But he was never going to be a traitor.
Yeah, he was never going to be a traitor. And you know what? The question mark was over Frankie. They made it seem like it was a bit more up in the air, but it was still very, very enjoyable viewing. I was still on the edge of my seat wondering, you know, when she turned over the chalkboard.
Yes.
But I was pretty confident of what was going to happen.
Let's talk actually about the two winners, right? So you've got Jake. I am quite amazed actually that Jake made it to the end only because he called Linda immediately. I guess there's that thing of like, if you're seen as a smart, faithful, you usually get murdered. Unless you immediately directly call out a traitor and then you can't be murdered because you're too on the money. But when they had the chance, I'm amazed Linda never murdered Jake.
Yes.
I'm amazed they never murdered him simply for calling Linda that fast. Now, obviously, it was in his favor that he then went into the wilderness of just being wrong over and over and over again. That protected him from the traitors. But it's kind of amazing that he called a traitor on day one and then somehow didn't get murdered.
What was Jake's cutaway scene? I can't even remember seeing it. His name must have been on the chopping block a few times, but I literally cannot remember Jake's
They
cutaway.
weren't as crazy this season. It might have honestly just been him like reading a book or something.
Fair.
And then Leanne, you turned to me at one point. Leanne was like crying, wondering who to choose. And you said to me, like, she's going to win no matter what. Like, credit to her that she was fully mentally in the spirit of the game. But I'm like, girl, you're about to win tens of thousands of pounds.
She doesn't know that. But
no.
that is the thing. Watching someone like cry over a decision where I'm like, well, either way, she's going to get the money.
But like, let's talk about it. Like, I feel like Leanne got to a point 3/4 of the way through the show where people decided she wasn't a traitor, even though she was quite outspoken, combative, you could say at times.
Yeah.
Do you think there's an advantage in this show to just being argumentative where people actually don't bring you up because they don't want the hassle? I feel like we saw that a bit with Armani where people were like, I think it's Armani, but I'm scared to bring her up at the table because I think she'll yell at me. Like, I think that might be a thing.
Here's my thoughts. I think when you're in the breakfast room and something happens and you can very confidently say what you think is going to happen, like when someone turns to you and say, who do you think they'll murder? And you say, I think they'll murder this because of that. A traitor almost has to like take a second, think through what they're going to say. Because if you say the person who comes through the door, does that make you look guilty? Like, I think the power of being a faithful is that you're just like, if you're not too in your head, you will just say what you think is going to happen.
Yeah.
Sometimes it will be right and sometimes it will be wrong. And I think sometimes the suspicion falls on people who, one, don't bring her name up at the round table. Example, Linda.
Yep.
Linda, who do you think it is? I'm not sure. I think it might be you. You know.
Yeah. The
Crap.
worst move.
Literally crap. And I think that you have this ease of speaking if you're not too in your head as a faithful that affirms that you are a faithful, because sometimes I'm going to get it right and sometimes I'm going to get it wrong, but I'm still going to say what I think. And I think with a traitor, you just have to be thinking so quickly. You don't know what someone's going to ask you. And then you have to think, how would I respond? It's with the chess thing. How do I play it? How do I do it? And I think when people say like, Leanne is 100% a faithful, it's because she had that, she was quite loud, quite outspoken, and she had this ease probably, I don't know, but I would assume of just like answering a question with what she thought. Whereas when I'm asking Armani or when I'm asking Mina, there's a slight delay. They're not too sure. They're a bit vague. They're going with the herd. And I think that affirms you as a faithful.
That was beautifully put. Well done.
Thanks.
It's so true, actually, because you've nailed it. Because my assumption is, if a person is loud or sticks their head above the parapet, they're going to get taken out. But like, if you're just, she's such an open book.
Yes.
She's just like, here is every thought I'm ever having. And you're like, yeah, that's probably not going to be a traitor because, like you said, they wouldn't have time to be tactical. It's a good tactic if you want to be a future traitor to go in and just give every thought you ever have.
But every thought you have will be right, because if someone says, who do you think they'll murder? And you're like, I think they'll murder X. It's very hard to do.
Yeah,
do you say the person that you really think?
Yeah.
You need to like be someone who could like completely black out in the tower of what you do and then be like, here's what I think they'll do. Because you're going to be right sometimes. When they say, who do you think they murdered at breakfast? Chances are, if there's only 3 people left coming through the door, chances are if someone's asking you every breakfast, you are going to be right for some of them. But if you're a traitor, do you ever say a right name? I don't know.
I guess in that sense, Leanne was a true faithful. She was only ever putting out theories. Why do you think she wasn't murdered?
I honestly thought you were going to say, why do you think she wasn't liked? Because I don't think she's been very well received by the British public.
Look, I'll say this. People can be a bit mean to people on TV, a bit harsh. We've seen on this show that people can apparently be amazing and it's not edited out. Like, I never want to be too harsh to people, but I'll say this. She could have been nicer to Alexander.
Yes, I think maybe that's what swung the public, because the public love Alexander. And
Yes.
she came for our boy. She came for our golden boy.
For the People's Princess.
For the People's Princess.
My question is, if you were a traitor, would you have murdered Leanne at any point? I think, was she on the chopping block a few times?
I guess she was so close to Mina. Mina was keeping her in for such a long amount of time. We didn't really see her. I think Mina discussed killing her once. Was like, would it, with someone close to me, shall I just kill him off?
Yeah, and I guess also it's that thing of like, she was very loud, but she was often loudly wrong. That's a good person to be in the Traitors, is someone who is very loudly wrong, because the Traitors are like, brilliant, you're serving our purpose. It's like everyone this season going like, how... Actually, Leanne, was the ultimate person for being like, how am I still here? Who's keeping me here? And it's like, because you're barking up a lot of wrong trees, to be honest with you. So let's rewind. Charlotte has just been banished. She runs out of the room.
Yeah.
I know they weren't allowed to say their status, but I thought they'd be allowed to say like, thanks everyone, I had a nice time, goodbye. They clearly said to them, I guess they were so scared of them giving any clues. They were like, you have to leave, don't look back. She sprinted out of the room.
I think that was the right thing to do.
I agree. And then there were four.
And then they went to the fire.
You said a smart thing about the red and green flames.
My traitor's theory about the red and green flames is that, like, if you are amongst a group of people where some people have doubts, you have to vote red. Because if you vote green, they will automatically think you are a traitor.
Yes.
I kind of see moving forward, we are always going to get down to just two people.
Yeah.
One, because people want more of the prize pot.
Of course.
But two, because if you are someone who's going to put green in the flames, like we saw Harry do, it should have been a clue to Molly. Jazz was the one who voted red. Why would you want to keep going again unless he was super greedy? He wanted to vote again because he thought Harry was a traitor, right? Yeah. So I think in kind of most series here on out, now we're further into the game. If Faithfuls win, it's always going to be two.
Agreed, yes. And they're always going to... Is anyone ever going to vote green? Because like you say, it just looks suspicious.
Also, odds on, if there's just more of you, like there's more chance of someone being a traitor. So your best bet is kind of always to whittle it down.
But also, like you say, big picture, they always just want to whittle down the money.
Well,
that's
of course.
The main goal, is just get the money down. When they turned over those boards...
I said, is Alexander.
Well, we called it that it was going to be Alexander. It didn't make it any easier, Hannah.
It was a hard watch. But he left like a gent.
Oh.
Did he say, it's been so lovely playing with you? And he left like an absolute champ.
Reality TV, time and time again, it can be the ruin of some people. Some people go on reality TV. We may have even seen a few of them this season, not naming any names, but people can go on reality TV with the best one in the world being like, I'm going to be a celeb or whatever, and can genuinely ruin their lives by being a bit nasty. Alexander did the total opposite. This ex-diplomat, he strolled onto the game, he came in late, captured the hearts of the nation, fell in a bush, and then left. He was such good TV.
He was wonderful.
And also, what's lovely is that, like, I don't think any of that was, like, cynical. He wasn't like, I'll do this to be perceived as nice by the British public. He's just a nice guy.
He was hugging Charlotte. I think he very clearly thought Charlotte was a traitor, but he was still consoling her when she was upset. He was still a gentleman in these scenarios. He still understood it was a game. He still had fun in every single scenario. He loved the little helicopter challenge. I think whoever cast him, he was a rare find.
Yes.
For a show like this. And I think he will go down as one of the greats.
What's crazy is to think of the the sliding doors of what if that Northern guy had done a better speech and then Alexander had just been left in the cage and we never
not doing fine,
and we never got to enjoy a season of Alexander. So Alexander goes, we're down to the 3. We've already spoken about it. I've been wrong a few times this season, I will say. And hey, what do we like doing on this show?
Taking accountability.
I really maybe I'm a sucker. I really thought the girls were going to team
The
up.
edit got you.
The edit got me.
I said she's going with Jake. They showed us too much.
Yeah.
You always know if they show you too much of the mummy theory and all that. I was like, it was so in our face that Frankie and Leanne were going to team up that it was too in our face. It goes right back. Was it Leanne who was like, we've done a 360?
Yeah, I love that. So I've done a total 360. I'm like, so you're exactly where you started?
So we've now had 3 different series of the UK Traitors.
Yes.
Shall we rank 3 to 1?
We should. We might also do a bonus episode where we do like...
Yes, we want to do, because we have watched UK, Australia, US, so we might do a best to worst.
Yeah, and we should maybe do an awards episode for this season. And we've got more Traitors stuff to come, I think.
Should we start with our least favourite?
Okay. God, this is hard. Do you want to go first?
This series.
This one?
Yeah.
Is that just because one of them has to be bottom?
One of them has to be, it was still great viewing telly, but here's why this series is last for me. I think a lot of the characters didn't have that much fun or were in their heads too much.
Yes.
I think the edit didn't show us the friendships and the kind of teammates in the way that I would have liked.
Sure.
And the finale was incredibly predictable, literally down to the last minute. And that made for less enjoyable TV. Honourable mention, though, to Kaz's leaving speech and Mina, who completely carried the series.
Yeah, and then, you know, I think this season we had a lot of like lovable characters. We loved Alexander. We loved Francesca. But you're right, in terms of like, you know, Harry, Paul, you know, Paul from last season, you know, these huge characters. Season 1, I guess, you know, you had the Wilf thing. You're right. It's just more interesting if you have a traitor in the final.
Are you going 3 as your last one?
I guess I will have to go 3 as well. But I don't know, because that does not mean I didn't enjoy it. I think they did a lot of really innovative stuff in this season. I've said it time and time again, but I love that they've changed the activities to make them more traitor related. I think they're on a really good path with that. I think the Sia thing has potential.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's 3rd for me.
Go on.
For me, it's 3, 1, 2.
Do you know what? The more I think about 1, and we had the girl from EastEnders.
And you also had that crazy breakfast where everyone cried.
Yeah, the more I think about season 1, I'm like, there were some incredible moments in series 1 where people were almost in a game that they didn't understand or know that they were playing. Truly, that breakfast scene goes round in my head as one of the best bits of television. I mean, we sit and watch it
all the time. If you've not seen season 1 of the UK Traitors, no spoilers, but there is a scene, it's pretty early on, where everyone is just bursting into tears.
It's just
literally
fantastic.
It's like one person after another. There's a point where one person is sat there, he's completely still, like stone-faced, and he just spontaneously bursts into tears. And it's the breakfast scene. Like, people don't usually cry at breakfast. 8 or 9 people are crying. It's carnage.
It's carnage. I would find it really hard to choose between 2 and 1. I loved both of them. I think strategy-wise, season 2, the players were a little bit more advanced. It was a little bit, you know, the shield thing that Harry did. Paul was like an evil villain in the best way. So yeah, maybe I would say 3, 1, 2.
It's hard because I think both season 1 and season 2 had unique things that you're never going to see again. You're never going to be able to replicate the first season.
Never.
Because once people have seen the show, as we saw in this season, once people know the show, it completely changes the way they play.
It broke my brain the first time we ever saw a traitor go against another traitor.
Yeah.
I think it was Wilf and
Alyssa? Or Alicia?
Yeah. Yes. We were gagged. We were on the edge. We could not believe it. And of course, you're never going to quite get that high again, but it was, yeah.
And also with season 2, like the way that finale went down, that whole showdown with Harry and Molly, like you're never going to get that again because that was such insane stakes and TV, and they had such a specific relationship. You know, I felt a bit sorry for them going into this season because I'm like, you're never going to be able to replicate that. And I think they tried really hard with the Sia thing, and I think they tried really hard to set up this rivalry between Charlotte and Francesca. And I think it worked really well, but they were trying to get that showdown from season 2 again, and you can't recreate that magic. But all in all, I want to be clear, we loved this season.
Yeah, we loved it.
We love the Traitors. There's a reason we stay up till 3 a.m. every night to get this done.
And what a joy in January. You know, January is a tough old month, having something to look forward to 3 nights a week. I will say a lot of people are like, why is it not Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday rather than Wednesday, Thursday, Friday? I would like to co-sign that. I'm up for a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. But look, it has been fantastic TV. It's been so enjoyable. Making this podcast has been genuinely like one of the highlights of our life.
We love doing it because we just love the Traitors so much anyway. And we love yapping.
And the response has just like been amazing. It's been so much fun. I feel really sad it's over.
It is. Well, this mini-series is over.
Oh, God, you're going to wang on about
we keep...
Anything I try and write or try and do, Benedict's like, don't make it seem like the podcast is ending. I'm not saying the podcast is ending. The podcast will continue. We are going to rebrand. I know Talk of the Apprentice isn't as catchy as Talk of the Traitors.
Yes.
But we are going to talk of The Apprentice. The Apprentice with Lord Sugar is coming out. It's another one of our favourite shows. It starts on the 30th of January.
Next week.
Next Thursday. And we will be doing another series like this, another watch along. So we will see you there. But this has just been so good.
It really has. Look, I know I go on about it, but I'm just like, sometimes when we talk about these, it's all over. I'm like, it's not actually over. The mini-series is over. The Apprentice is going to be really fun. If you've never watched The Apprentice, it's a very funny show.
Yes.
We've had quite a lot of people message us who say they love Talk of the Traitors, and they're like, I'm not watching The Traitors, but I love your podcast. First of all love to you. Thank you for listening. Second of all, fascinating to me. Fascinating.
Someone messaged me and they were like, I listened to all your podcasts. I've just seen a picture of Alexander. I had no idea who you were talking about because I don't watch The Traitors. And I'm like, that is so lovely. But what? You have no idea what we're talking about, and we're just talking endlessly about games and theories of a show that you've never seen and you don't understand. Absolutely. I mean, hats off to you. Thank you so much for listening. I know our audience outside the UK absolutely won't be listening to this, and I fear we have alienated all of them through this very dedicated series. But yeah, we will be back to alienate you again for Talk of the Apprentice.
And again, if you don't watch The Apprentice, just do what they do. Just listen to our show. And by the way, if anyone has any better versions of Talk of the Apprentice, maybe something that begins with T, let us know. It's at Talk of the Townsends on Instagram. Talk of the Tradesman. Let us know. There must be a pun there somewhere.
And finally, the love and support shown on this podcast and the little clips has just exceeded our wildest dreams. So thank you so much for that. And on behalf of the Talk of the Traitors family that we have on here, we have made a donation in your names to Alexander's charity.
Yes, the Royal Mencap Society, the one he spoke very passionately about at the dinner party.
Yeah.
We've made a little bit of money off our clips and stuff, and so we've made a donation to a good cause.
So you guys helped do that. So thank you so much, and we will be back with you
for Talk of the Apprentice.
Of the Tradesman.
Name pending.
Goodbye.
Goodbye, and thank you.